Hello, everybody. Welcome to Vanishing's annual letter live. I'm Andy
It's great to
Gladwin.
have you here.
Right here is Joshua J. Welcome. So this is going to be a fun event where we are going to talk a little bit about Vanishing Inc., the year that we've had so far, but also we have some really great live guests. We have Azzy Wind, we have Ben Seidman is going to be with us, and so it's Harrison Greenbaum, who is going to finish us out with his review of 2020. And if you know Harrison, you know it's going to be a fun ride.
And the reason that we're here doing this is because of something that we started several years ago, inspired by something Andy and I both really loved, which is Warren Buffett, this great entrepreneur and investor, writes an annual letter to his people every year. And what's interesting about the letter is it's not just some chest thumping, list of accomplishments for the year. It's a really candid, honest appraisal of the stuff he thinks he did really well and right, and the things that he needs to work on in his company or things that went wrong. And what impressed us about that letter is the candor and respect that he treated his audience with. And we want to try and do the same thing. So we have spent the last month and a half crafting this letter where we tell you things we think went really well. We talk a little bit about 2020 and this strange year that we've had. And we talk about things we didn't do very well and we want to do better. And because you're a customer base, we want to be honest with you and talk to you about it in a candid way. So that's what we're going to do.
And this is a dialogue, so we want to hear from you too. First of all, please like and share the video. We're on the Vanishing Inc. website live. We're on our personal Facebooks. We're also on the Vanishing Inc. Facebook. If you could share one of those videos, more people get to see it and more people get to interact. So we do want to hear from you. We want to make this a conversation more than just us talking. And hopefully, Josh, it'll be a conversation between us as well. I mean, this is relatively conversational, so let's make it a conversation with everybody. But let's start off talking about the most obvious thing of 2020. Everyone's talking about it, is of course the pandemic. But our observation is that magicians have had to move quicker than many industries to kind of stay in business, to stay afloat. And we are so inspired by how quickly magicians pivoted to online shows, to online lectures, and to move everything so that their magic is pandemic friendly. It's been a real lesson to us. And it's all too easy to hear from people who say that magic is dead or magic is outdated or magic moves slow. But 2020 has been the year that's proved that that is not the case at all.
Absolutely. And as much as we're in awe from you guys and the pivot that you've made, I think that we've made a pivot of our own, and I'm really proud of that for the most part. I think there have been some growing pains, but essentially, we want to talk to you about our pivot, which was, what do you do when you're a magic shop like us, and you're this brand that sells to performers, and now performers aren't performing live for audiences? And so if magicians' pivot was to pivot to virtual, our pivot was to go virtual in providing you with the tools you need. Our sort of direction is, how can we be the best partner for magicians who are no longer performing in the same venues they were, or who are struggling, or who have time they never had to invest in new material? So we did this in 3 key ways, and I'll talk about the first one, which was a free event that we did for everybody when the pandemic first started, and we called it Share Magic Live. And this was an event that lasted all day long. We had guests throughout the day, tons of wonderful guests, from Jeff McBride to Justin Willman to a million people stopping in to teach. Harapan Ong did a beautiful lecture at the start of it. And the impressive thing was 35,000 magicians attended Share Magic Live throughout the day, which makes that the biggest magic gathering of any kind by far in the history of the universe. And that makes us enormously proud. It was also good for business. It welcomed a lot of new people who discovered us and came to our brand and understand what we're about. So it tended to be this thing that we wanted to do just to share it and get people to come together. We didn't charge money for it. We just wanted to throw a party. And it ended up being really good for us as well. So that was the first part of our pivot.
And it's available online still. You can download it on the Vanishing Inc. website. It's totally free. But for me, and I don't know whether you felt this way, Josh, but that Share Magic Live was almost a turning point that made me realize that all magic shops, not just us, all magic producers, kind of have a responsibility to move forward with the times quickly to help provide the tools for other magicians. So it was a real eye-opener what we needed to do ongoing in 2020.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about some of the other things that we did in that way. I guess the main one is Vanishing Masterclass Live. This is something that I think could have only really been launched in 2020, but we wanted to basically create the world's largest magic club, and that's what Masterclass Live is. It's every month we have a guest lecturer, guest instructor who does 4 sessions, 3 lectures and Q&A sessions, and then last of all, on the last Sunday of the month, they do a Q&A on Zoom, and it's been really, really fun. We just had Guy Hollingworth, but we've had some incredible guests over the last few months, and for me, I just always look forward to that time on a Sunday where I just get to switch off from everything else and just focus on magic, and it's been a really great way of learning. Coming up, we have John Gustafaro in January, and we have Mike Caveney, Eric Jones, Peter Samuelson, Danny Garcia, and I think it's going to just go from strength to strength with 2 things. One is as we learn more about the format, but 2, as more people get involved, because we really want a community aspect, and we bring people in on video to ask questions to the performers. And what's so much fun is on the last Sunday when we do this Zoom chat, seeing familiar faces and seeing what people are working on. With somebody often asks a question about putting together a show and that kind of thing. And it's really fun to see people getting into this and really digging their teeth into it. Then the other thing is Vanishing Showtime. We haven't been able to go to conventions this year, and we love being at conventions. So we decided, let's bring it to everybody. So Vanishing Showtime is a show every month where we are picking some magicians who have become known for doing virtual shows, and we are allowing magicians to bring their families in, watch from home, with their family, and then after the show's ended, we do a Q&A with the lecturer as well. We just had Justin Wellman, and we had 300 magicians there, and it was such a fun time. Coming up, we have Ben Seidman, January 6th, and then Lucy Darling, Chris Hendricks in February as well. So it's going to be a really fun experience to see that grow, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of magicians, a lot of magic luminaries are offering lessons now online, and there are advantages to taking lessons. But to me, this community effort that we've got going with Masterclass and then with Showtime, it's so cool because it scratches 2 itches, right? It's really informative. It's a great way to learn because you're not going out. You're able to hold your cards or your coins and follow along right then and there. If you're confused about something, you ask the question right to the instructor. But also, you're doing it with other like-minded people. And the thing that surprised me the most, I don't know about you, Andy, is I didn't know what the demographic would be like of who would, subscribe to our masterclass, because it's the best value on the site. Whenever anybody says, like, what should I do? I'm always like, $50 a month. Masterclass is the best value. You get all 4 lessons, you get them, forever. But I think that the level is high, and that impressed me a lot because, we just had Guy Hollingworth in his Q&A, and people are asking about his one-hand bottom palm and how he puts routines together, and it's a good mix of professionals and amateurs and beginners and advanced, but we're just so impressed that the level's been so high.
Let's just take a brief pause. There's some great comments coming in. Somebody on YouTube said, referring to kind of the masterclass and Show Magic Live, magic is even more important during the time you're going through. It's an escape and a way to focus on something good. Like, so true, right? It's that's what magic's been for me, and I'm sure it has for so many other people as well. Jonathan Cohen says, Share Magic was mind-blowing. How fast you put it together, the platform you created, and the sheer number of people who tuned in, and it was free. So darn cool. Thank you, Jonathan. That's really kind.
Hi, Jonathan.
And it's, I'm. You can probably tell I'm flicking around, looking at all the messages. It's so cool to see so many positive
it was
words.
A good day. It was a really good day, and I think we all needed it at that moment, because if you go back to that time, we didn't know how long the pandemic would be, if there was a vaccine that would even be possible. So we needed that day, and that was a good day. I just want to remind you, if you're just joining us now, that we have Harrison Greenbaum coming up at the end of this little presentation, who's going to roast the year 2020 in magic. So you're not going to want to miss that. We're also going to be talking in just a few minutes about new releases that we have coming up. But first, I want to finish this out and just remind you that, January 6th, Ben Seidman is our next Showtime guest. You don't have to subscribe to anything. It's just a one-time thing. You buy the ticket, and everybody in your household gets to watch. And this is what's so cool about this format. You watch his show, which is exceptional. And then you boot out the non-magicians, and then we get to have a very serious talk about the tech and the platform and the tricks and everything else that a magician would want to know about the show.
And let's talk candidly about Showtime. Like, of all the things we've done this year, I think Showtime was probably the biggest risk, right? You know, we didn't know how many magicians would want to come and watch. And I think some of our best projects do start with risks, but they also start with another key element, which is that we do it because it's something that we would want to be involved in, right? Showtime is something I would want to go and watch if I was a Vanishing customer. So I'm glad that it's been received positively.
It's interesting, and I'll be very frank with everybody. I'm not sure it's going to work long term. First of all, I don't know if there's an expiration date on getting high quality virtual shows when the world opens back up, or if it'll just have run its course. But also, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know how worth it is for us from a strictly financial sense, because obviously, we're sharing any income with the performers, and it's not a subscription model. So every month we start again at zero and have to promote the shows. And so it really comes down to you, and that's what I think gets lost in the shuffle, is that all of our products, you are the beta testers. You are the ones that decide. If we have a book that does really well, it makes us understand that you have an appetite for books. If we do a trick that I think is really cool and it doesn't sell at all, it makes us think like, okay, well, maybe there's not much of an appetite for this kind of a trick. And what's our guiding light in this? I mean, I don't want to speak for Andi, but I think he agrees, is we just want to do what we think is cool. We started Showtime because we wanted to see these virtual shows that people were doing. Yeah.
I'm going to pose a question to you from Adam Rose on Facebook. What was the biggest lesson you learned from having to pivot with the company in this crazy year?
It's a good question, right? First of all. Yeah, it's a good question, and formulate your answer while I'm thinking of mine. I'll tell you something. Again, I'll be very candid with you. So Masterclass was all Andi's idea. I was very hesitant to get into it. I have watched all of our competition do subscription model stuff and fail. Obviously, the biggest one that does work is Penguin. A competitor of ours has a live lecture thing, and we didn't want to copy them or get into that same lane because I think they do it reasonably well. But Andi found this format that I think is really, really great, the masterclass, the multiple lessons. And I didn't think a lot of people would sign up, and it's just really worked. And conversely, Showtime was kind of my baby. I sort of was thinking, I see Justin Willman and Ben Seidman and all these guys doing really interesting virtual shows, and I want to know how they are. And I also want to be able to share it with my family and the people around me that are in my bubble. Is it possible to create something like that? And that's kind of my answer to that. What about you?
Yeah, my answer, it almost sounds a little bit kind of touchy-feely and wishy-washy, but my answer is that community matters. I think that's what I learned this year. Vanishing over the last 9 years that we've grown hasn't really had much of a community aspect, but Masterclass and Showtime has really showed me that, and Share Magic Live, that community is so important. And I want to focus on that going into 2021. How can we, all of these people that are watching right now, how can we keep in contact with you, and how can we do it in interesting ways? I don't think the answer is to duplicate a magic cafe or that kind of thing. It's not a forum or a Facebook group, but I think we have to really look at that ongoing, because that's what I've learned this year. It's really important.
You're right. Now you talk a big game, Mr. Gladwin, when you talk about community, but the interesting thing is, every day when I try and show you the tricks I'm working on, you don't really want to see them. So do you care to respond to that comment?
Wow. Yeah, I'm a busy man. Now, look, people are going to judge me. Imagine being the guy who, imagine this. Most people watching this would go, Joshua J wants to FaceTime me and he wants to show me his latest trick. I would be crazy to turn that down, but normally I'm putting my son to bed or just about to get to bed myself, and you're like, hey, let me show you a trick. That's my answer to that. Anyway, let's move on.
The thing is that before we get into the new products and before we turn over to Harrison Greenbaum, for those just joining us, he's coming in later, we want to take a look back at a few products. So I want to talk about two books specifically that we released this year. And these two books are Distilled by Ryan Plunkett and Darkest Corners by Neil Kelso and Ben Hart. Another beautiful book. And these are two of our books that I think represented a big change for us, a big improvement in our production quality. You know, like anybody else, we're learning as we go, and we're getting, I think, better and bolder as we go. So these two books, if you look at them, they just look gorgeous. So for those who don't know, Distilled by Ryan Plunkett, this is a book amassed of the material that he learned performing at the Chicago Magic Lounge. If you haven't been there when you're vaccinated and it's open again, you have to go. It's got a very distinctly different vibe from the Magic Castle. And all this material is top shelf tested stuff. It's in this tradition that was started by Pitt Hartling and Dennis Baer, kind of these small books that are densely packed with great magic, but no filler. That's what that is. And then The Darkest Corners, this is a book of Ben Hart's parlor magic. So if you like stuff that plays bigger, you're going to love this book. It's a lot of classic material, but with very unclassic methods. He's totally reinvented the wheel in a lot of really great ways. And so both books get my highest recommendation.
Yeah, you know, this really has been a year of books for us. Another one is Parlor Tricks by Morgan & West. And I'll be honest, when Morgan & West first came to us and said that they wanted to write a book on their show, their Parlor Tricks show, it's a full 2-hour show, my initial reaction was, are people going to want to learn about a show put on by a double act? And as soon as I read the manuscript, I got it. I finally got it then. This is, they explain the full methods of their show, but this book is bigger than the methods. This is about how to put on a show, how to develop character. And to me, it's actually been one of the most enjoyable reads I've had this year. And the thing I'm proud of with that book in particular, two things. One is that we designed the book to feel like the show. It feels Victorian era-esque, right from the paper choice to the muting of the colors of the photos to the cover. And then the other thing is, I don't think I've seen this in a magic book before, but we included the full 2-hour show. The whole show is in video form that you can download and watch, which really helps to kind of get what they're like as performers.
I think that book has my favorite cover of any Vanishing book. And we have a lot of covers I like. Shout out to George Luck for that cover design. It's really, really sweet.
Shall I show? I don't think I ever told you this. Did I tell you how that cover came about? No. It's the most bizarre story, and I'll probably regret saying it. I saw a book in Jeff McBride's bathroom that had a really cool cover, and I came out and I said to George, "Look at this cover," and George just took it in a whole different direction.
Wow.
And yeah, it's great. I love the detail on the cover that he went to, right down to the little owl that's on there. That's the highlight element of the show. Another thing that outside of books I found interesting this year is to look at the sales trends. What products are selling more than others? Books clearly have sold really well for us. Josh, you've paused. Oh no, you're back now. You paused in the weirdest way. It was very funny. Yeah, the sales trends. There's something I don't think you would ever expect, but due to the pandemic, I suspect we've sold more close-up pads than ever before. This year, if there was a chart over the years of how many close-up pads we've sold, it would kind of go like this, and then 2020, it's right up here. And that just tells me people are using this pandemic wisely to practice more. And in particular, I'm really proud that we partnered with Vorsten Bosch. I went to the Netherlands to see their process of how they make their pads, and they're absolutely stunning. And I watched every single stage to see how they were put together. And the Vorsten Bosch team, they're craftsmen, and their work is in the palaces of Europe, and all sorts of royal families are commissioning them to produce furniture for them. And we managed to get them to make these close-up pads, and they are absolutely incredible. I have two myself, and I always practice on them. Yeah.
Well, let's keep trucking along. I want to take a brief detour and tell you about this guy over here's year. He had a very exciting year. And that is talk a little bit about my best friend and partner, Andi Gladwin. For those of you who are new to the Vanishing community, Andi and I have known each other since we met on a Lance Burton television special when we were both teenagers. Andi is, of course, 15 years older than me, but we were friends from the start. And so he's had an incredible year, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. It started with an American and Canadian lecture tour, and that was right before the pandemic hit. And then the big news, which you probably do already know, is Andi, who waited way more than 10 years to put out his own book. He had worked on over 100 books here for our company and putting them out, but he had never done his own book. And that all changed this year with The Boy Who Cried Magic. And this is a gorgeous collection of material, 16 routines, 15 moves. It got praise from all the big magic luminaries, and we went to Vegas and shot this absolutely elaborate and incredible magic trailer. I think that the production values for the book were so impressive that it almost overshadows how good the material is. And I would caution you, for those who bought it, don't let that happen. I mean, if you put the time in, Red Black to the Future, The Undo Cut, and a dozen other things are really fantastic. And we're really proud of him. It's the quickest selling magic book in our company's history and poised to become the best selling. So we're all very proud of him for that. And that's Andy's year.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you very much. You know, the year for me, the highlight's been hearing from so many people who have been working on the tricks, especially over Christmas. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's picked up a copy, and thanks to all the nice words from people who bought it, and also from you, Josh. It's really kind. Well, let's talk about you. Exactly as you said, we've known each other since we met. That's true. That's a fact. We met in 1999, and yeah, we've been best friends pretty much ever since. And it's been really amazing to see your career trajectory over the last couple of years. And this year in particular, you know, Josh was on the cover of the New York Times art section, which was really thrilling to see. But also outside of magic, your Magic Mail, your book for the public, this kit was not only really interesting to see just how well that was received, but I got to experience it from a personal element by testing it with my son every night, who is just absolutely captivated by this Magic Mailbox. And it's the whole Magic Mailbox idea is it's a month of where postcards appear that are sent from Josh in this mailbox every night. And my son's loved it so much, we've had to extend it. And luckily, having Josh just a phone call away, we've been able to do some really fun things. Such as, Josh has been sending my son gifts through the Magic Mailbox. So yeah, I'm really proud of what you've achieved there. But also, you know, the SAM Assembly, sorry if I get this wrong, the Magician of the Year, Parent Assembly Magician of the Year. Is that the correct title they gave you? And that was supposed to be with a live show in New York in a big theater. That wasn't to be, sadly, but you know, we had this this online event that was attended by some fantastic magicians, and some of your favorite magicians sent videos in, including David Copperfield. So it was, yeah, a really great experience to see that, and to see how many people were saying so many nice things about you, which I think are pretty much all true.
Well, thanks, pal. Appreciate that.
No,
let's talk about the Big Friday sale, because there's a little bit to unpack here, and it's not all good, but it's a lot of good, and I thought we'd just chat about that. I'll start us off. So sales-wise, we didn't know what to expect. I mean, it's a pandemic. People are hurting. They don't have as much money to spend. Magicians aren't performing. We understand that. And I'll tell you something, a huge stress for us during this period was keeping our team together. You know, we worked very hard to build this company into what it is, and we care about our team like family. And there was a period where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to keep everybody on, because, you know, times are tough. Big Friday secured everyone's position and saved us, and that's thanks to you guys. So the first thing is a huge thanks. The sale was a big success. It was not without its problems, but it was a big success, and we appreciate you. Yeah,
in fact, let's be honest, it was almost too big of a success for us to handle, which I realize sounds strange, but we normally kind of try and predict the number of sales so that we can bring in temporary staff, which this year had its own problems because of COVID. We had to, you know, all temporary staff had to be COVID tested beforehand, and we had to keep social distancing in the warehouses, which was kind of tricky. Josh and I was in the UK warehouse, Josh was in the US warehouse, and it was a struggle this year, because even though we brought in extra staff, we had more orders than we could have ever predicted, and that means there were some order delays, and that's really tough for us to handle, because, you know, when there are order delays, there are obviously customers who are upset, and customers who are excited to get their packages. And so yeah, to everybody who didn't receive their package as quickly as we normally dispatch within 24 hours. I think we're both really sorry about that, and yeah, we're already in discussions of how we can make sure next year we can keep up with order demand, and hopefully without social distance requirements, it will be a lot easier.
Yeah, and we're disappointed in ourselves because whenever we write the annual letter, we go back and read the previous year's letters. And last year we had a problem as well in dealing with the volume, and we thought we had solved it, and we took great pains to put new things in there. Oh,
I think Josh kind of cut out. I don't know whether
back.
It's cut out for everybody else. Oh, you're back. Cool. Welcome back. Yeah, you were. You were just talking about the annual letter and how we check back previous ones, and I think what you were saying was we kind of mentioned the delays before, right? We've had delays
So
in past years.
It was a little bit gutting because we took so many precautions to be ready this year, and I was there as we were sort of keeping up and then falling behind a little, and then the next day we fell so far behind. And keep in mind, our staff, it is not their fault. It was strictly a volume issue. We were working truly in 3 shifts that gave us almost 24-hour coverage in both warehouses. So again, we're going to do better on that. That's a promise from us to you, so that next year when you order, you will get it faster than you got it this year. Let's talk a little bit about the charity, because this is a huge part of the company for us. When we started Vanishing Inc., we also founded the Vanishing Inc. Magic Fund, which the whole goal is to help out specifically young magicians, but just the craft of magic in general. So we did some things that I'm really excited about, and one of them is that we commissioned a magic book, and we're not going to say too much here, but we've commissioned a magic book with a grant that is probably very much outside the scope of what we usually do. And I'm not going to say who, but one of Magic's great writers is going to be writing it. And it's basically a new way of looking at the history of magic. So normally we tell the history of magic chronologically. We start with drawings in cave walls and go up through David Copperfield. But this history of magic is going to be told through the tricks, through the props and the plots and the items. So it's a little bit inspired by, this book about the British Museum, A History of the World in 100 Objects. It's sort of that for magic. And I'm really excited about what that's going to mean for magic scholars.
And that's not the only book we've commissioned as part of the Magic Fund this year. We've also commissioned a book on magicians of color, and we have recruited David Britland and Ice McDonald are working on this book, and it's a book on the history of Black magicians, and it's been so fascinating to dig into that and learn about these magicians who were incredibly inspiring and very influential. And I think we're both so proud that we are going to have that book out, hopefully in the next year. But there's other things that the charity has done this year, and we don't often talk about them, so it's kind of fun to have a few minutes just to reflect on them. Every year we bring in to Magi Fest as part of the scholarship the Gahana School from Columbus, Ohio, and their students are students with special learning needs, and they put on a show for us. And this year was extra special because we also got to perform for them. And you know what's fun is they had a trick in their show that Josh and I had never seen before. And actually just a couple of weeks ago, we were playing around with that trick. And it was actually really inspiring to see these young magicians using magic as part of their education. And the teachers there do such a great job. So it's been really fun to be part of that. And another school that we are involved in is the College of Magic in South Africa. And this year, more than ever, they needed our help. And we were able to donate to do some things that I think they found incredibly useful. In fact, they sent us a letter. I think we have a small quote from this. They sent us this really long letter, but if we have the quote, let's bring it up from the letter. If not, no biggie. There we go. And I won't read it all out right now, but your generosity has provided incredible support towards developing and facilitating our online training program in 2020, necessitated by the coronavirus pandemic, and the increased amount enabled us to extend this critical support. And Josh, let's just quickly break down what that means. I think there are two things really.
Yes. So
what do you talk about the connections, the internet connections?
Yeah. So of course, what does it look like to support young magicians that are sort of in need of extra help in South Africa when they can't meet at the College of Magic? And we were able to work with the College of Magic and put together a plan where they're supplying internet connections and tablets if needed, and other things, software or the internet connection itself, so the kids, regardless of their background and their financial need, are able to take magic lessons and everything that goes with an internet connection for school and everything else, which meant a lot to us. And so, yeah, it's been a big part of what we do. We do think about this stuff. We know that as we grow as a company, we have an obligation to the community, and we want to give back in as many ways as we can.
And yeah, let's talk briefly about where the money comes from that allows us to donate. We donate some as part of Vanishing Inc. We have some key people who donate as well, but also the donations that our customers make at the checkout make a massive difference. And that's why we want to talk about this, because the $2 here and there might not seem like much when you're checking out, but actually it really does impact human lives and lives of magicians. One I found particularly inspiring is there was a young magician at the College of Magic who he had from a single parent family, and his mother came down with COVID and was hospitalized. And this young magician was left stranded at home by himself. And through the donations of our customers, the College of Magic was able to rehouse this young magician and allow him to continue with his studies, make sure he had an internet connection, make sure he had the hardware he needed to continue studying. And that, believe it or not, is all from the donations of our customers. So from both of us, a massive thank you for everything you've done.
Absolutely.
So in a minute, we're going to bring on Harrison Greenbaum, and we have some to hear from some other people as well. But let's just do a few more questions from the people watching. There's so many people watching. So if you're up for that, Josh, I will.
Yeah, why don't you read them out to me?
Yeah, this is what I never expect. There's a lot of comments about Jeff McBride's bathroom. John Archer and Chad Long and Ben Seidman are running that conversation. So thanks, guys, on the Facebook chat. Appreciate that.
You walked into that one. You showed weakness and they pounced.
Yep, they did. I mean, that's like they do in life for me always. So thanks, guys. There's quite a few questions about the conventions, and actually, we haven't talked about the conventions yet. Do you just want to spend a minute or two?
Yeah, let me bring up to everybody up to date. First of all, with Magi Fest, and then we'll talk about the session. Session's a little easier to talk about. So here's the deal with Magi Fest. To bring you up to speed, we're not having it in a month. That's when it would normally be. And what we had said initially was we were moving it to May, and we had dates picked out, and it was going to be a choose your own adventure. You could come in person, and we had hoped everybody would be vaccinated, or you could come virtually and attend, which is a new feature, to attend virtually. We're still thinking that we're going to have both of those options, but what's become clear is I don't think the timeline quite works. So we're not ready to announce new dates, but it's looking 90% like mid-September. We're going to have dates to be at the originally planned hotel. And remember, what we're balancing here is hard because we very much want to have Magi Fest next January on time and then continue it. And we don't want to skip a year. We think we need to get together, and we had everything planned and magicians hired. So I think it's going to look like mid-September. You will still have the option to come in person or virtually. But by mid-September, we're very hopeful that for our international guests and our domestic guests here in the States, you have been vaccinated by then. So that's the update on Magi Fest. The update for the session is a little easier. It's looking like it's July 4th weekend, right, Andy?
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to be able to keep that. The problem is things are moving so quickly. You know, in the UK, already in the last 2 weeks, 500,000 people have been vaccinated. So we're still now very hopeful that we can hit July the 4th, and that'll be online as well as in person. Brad had a question, what's your favorite factory release this year? We'll get back to that in a second, Brad, I promise. But Ben on YouTube wants to know whether the retreat will be back when the world goes back to normal. And the answer to that is, yeah, we have pushed the South Africa retreat back to November 2021. All of the attendees of the retreat will be in touch about that soon. But we have big plans for the retreat. And yeah, that's one thing we're gutted that the pandemic has.
I mean, I'm probably saying too much, but of course, you guys know everything we're saying is subject to change, you know, based on new evidence. But guys, we had basically the whole next retreat planned out for Tuscany, Italy. which I still think is such a marvelous place. This perfect balance of delicious food and the history in the area. And we had excursions planned that were going to show ancient ruins and magic outside in an ancient amphitheater. And we still have plans for that, but I'm not sure when those will be. We also have a plan to do a retreat here in the States, in the American West, which I think would be hugely popular because it would be very easy to get to, easy to pop over for 3 days. Flights would be cheap. And so we have definite plans to do more retreats. We just need to get things safe so we can have them.
And this just in from Chad Long. He's planning on attending Magi Fest both ways, both physically and virtually. So it's going to be quite an experience for everybody, especially Chad. There was the question about what our favorite tricks were from the year, but I think we can do one better. Let's talk about what our favorite tricks are that are upcoming. I think that'll be worth noting. Actually, before we go, John Archer says, when are we going to release Chad's book? Now, that's a great question. Let's talk about that, Chad.
I have asked Chad. Chad, ball's in your court. I have asked repeatedly.
You know what? Let's make this the first official book deal done via annual letter. So, Chad, say yes. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. As soon as Chad responds, that's going to go on screen, and we're going to make this happen right now live. Josh, why don't you talk about some of the new products that we've got upcoming, including one that I'm really excited for you to announce.
Yeah, so when this pandemic first hit, I finally made good on something that I've been promising myself and some of my magic confidants for years, and that is I dragged out my old memorized deck notes. And I've been a memorized deck user for 20 years. I used Aronson Stack. Simon Aronson was like family to me. His passing was very hard for me. And it really made me rethink a lot of Stack stuff and miss him even more. And the first part of this pandemic gave me the inspiration I needed to finish what I thought would be a book of about 7 or 8 tricks that I'm pretty proud of that work with any stack. But I don't use Aronson Stack anymore. I use my own system. And I say system instead of stack because it's a lot more than a stack. It's a stack plus 4 or 5 other principles at work. And truth be told, it's the operating system I do my card magic in. So anytime I have a deck of cards, this is in particle system. And I can do all of my tricks. I can run them through the system and get into and out of the stack and so on. So the book is called The Particle System. I've had about 20 of my friends test it out and read it, and I hope that by the end of 2021, we can release it to you guys. I am incredibly excited as to the doors this is going to open up, and so that's personally what I'm looking forward to.
I can feel the emails already coming to the Vanishing Ink inbox saying, when is Josh's book coming out? It's going to be late 2021, so hold on for now. Oh, Chad's going to do a book mostly of our material. Okay, well, that can be the particle stack. I'm really excited for that book. There's something else I'm excited for us to announce, and it's with our friend Ben Seidman. In fact, we have 2 projects coming up with Ben. We've already told you one, Vanishing Showtime with Ben in January. But let's hear from Ben.
"11 years ago, I decided to stop publishing magic. I was focusing on my own performance career, and anytime I came up with an idea that I thought was really good, I wanted to keep it to myself. But there was this one piece that whenever there were magicians or mentalists in the audience, they would always ask me about after the show. They would always ask, like, hey, is that published? What's the real work on that? Can you share it with us? And I've said no for 11 years. But I realized it's time. It's time to share this with the community so that you can get as much enjoyment out of just getting the same level of connection and reactions from your audience. So I'm finally putting it out. I'm putting out the Oracle system. It's a piece of magic and mentalism that is the strongest piece that I do close up. It's also the most personal, and it hits people the hardest. So I'm very excited to share it with you, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm also doing my full virtual show, Camera Tricks, January 6th. This is the first time I've ever done my full virtual show for a group of magicians. Please come and bring your families. This is the show that I do for corporate events and ticketed events, and have been doing since the start of the pandemic. And after that, we're gonna have a talk back, so you can send the family out of the room, and we're gonna chat magic. So ask me any questions you'd like about building a virtual show, your own structure, choice of material, tech, whatever you want, and I'm happy to help you out. So yeah, I hope to see you on the 6th, and I hope you enjoy the Oracle system. I hope it brings as much joy to you as it has to me over the years.
Yeah, join us live for Ben's Showtime. But the Oracle system is such a cool project. I'm so proud that we have that coming out soon. But let's, Josh, let's quick fire through some of these other releases.
Yeah, real quick. So the one I'll talk about is Adam Elbaum's Bubble Thought. This is a virtual trick with cards, but it gets rid of all the procedures. So you just tell somebody, go grab a deck of cards. I've got one here. And then they pick a card and you pick a card and they match. And it is hands down, I will tell you, the best virtual card trick I've ever seen. Point blank. Yeah. It is just absolutely so strong. I use it. You will use it. It's fantastic. It's going to be a download. It's got the best handling I've seen for the cross-cut force. So even if you don't do the trick, which I think you will, this handling of the cross-cut force opens up all sorts of possibilities.
And we have lots of books planned in 2021. We have some great tricks as well. Check out the annual letter to see in detail some of those. But there's one more let's talk about. It's a project from our friend Azzy Wind, and here he is to tell us about it.
For the last few years, I've been working on a magic book entirely dedicated to a technique that I consider one of the most diabolical techniques in magic. Surprisingly, so little was written about it over the years. Before We Begin is a book entirely dedicated to pre-show. It's packed with ruses and ploys that can elevate any trick to what could seem like a true mind reading. Now, I know pre-show is a controversial topic because it's been butchered by so many magicians, but I assure you, after reading this book, your skepticism and fear will be gone. This book is the result of using all these ruses and ploys over the years with great success, but I was lucky that many of my friends contributed so many clever ideas that I can't wait to incorporate into my own shows. I'm so lucky that 3 of the smartest people I know agreed to interview for this book: Max Maven, Luke Germain, Penn Gillette, and they shared so many insights and wisdom from their experience. I'm very happy to announce Before We Begin because I think this will be beneficial to anyone who uses pre-show in his work or anyone who's hesitant to try it out for the first time.
All right. Super excited about Asi's book. And actually, there's a funny story behind his book cover. You were in Matt King's bathroom and you...
There is so much chat on that, and I'm so sorry to Jeff that he's probably now going like, why is my Google alerts gone crazy for Jeff McBride's bathroom?
I couldn't keep a straight face. I'm sorry. Yeah, so let's talk about a couple more products.
Yeah, we actually teased this one last year, I think, in the annual letter, and it just it hasn't been ready this year because many of the factories we work with have been closed or working on PPE stuff, which has made it really difficult to manage releases. But thanks to our team, we made it through. So it'll be 2021. But Steve Thompson has this incredible mentalism device. It's not some crazy high-tech thing. It's just really, really smart method that I think every single mentalist is going to want to know about this. And that is all I'm going to say. Please don't email us because I won't tell you anymore. But it's well worth keeping an eye out for.
Game-changingly good. And speaking of game-changingly good, I'll talk about one last product. So imagine this. We're at the retreat in Costa Rica last year, 40 magicians or so, 40 of you guys. And Tim Hill, my very good friend from Ohio, says, hey, guys, I got something I want to show. And we say, okay, cool, let's see. And he proceeds to set down a glass and do a very nice coins to glass. He was actually using quarters, which I thought, well, that's cool, to something more normal. So he borrows the glass, and the first one goes, and he's holding it, in the usual way, clink, the next one, clink. And then he does this, sets the glass down, walks way off to the side, takes the last coin, looks up, and in the glass, you see and hear nothing above it a coin fall in. And I won't say too much about the method, but he has created a card box that is unassuming and sitting on the table several feet or inches, as much as you like, away from the glass, that shoots the coin into a glass. And it's incredible. It's our first foray into complex electronics, and it's coming this year, and we couldn't be more excited about it. I think it's gonna blow things up.
I love that you won't say too much about it, just the effect and method. So
yes, just that. Well, I mean, like, what is it if I say it's a coins to glass? Everybody's going to go, oh, great.
Yeah.
Look forward to that, Josh.
I've just been informed by the team. We've already received an email as to when your book's coming out. So please don't email us. We don't have dates for any of these releases yet, but we are excited to get them out as soon as they are ready and not a minute before.
And, hey, look, this has been really fun for us. It's really cool. We were always looking forward. I mean, you can't imagine. Every day we take meetings internally about things that are coming up next and what we're doing and getting ready for things. And we almost never take the chance.
I don't know whether Josh calls for everyone else or just me. So I think for everyone. But I think what Josh was saying was, we never take the chance to be able to reflect on the year that we've just had, and also to be able to talk to everybody else outside of Vanishing Inc. about what's going on. And it's been so fun to see so many people in the comments. I could spend 2 hours reading out these comments and answering the questions. I'm sorry we don't have time for it, but it's been great. Welcome back, Josh. I think he paused again. Oh, no, get back. But perfect timing, because we now have our special guest with us, who is going to give us his review of 2020, and afterwards we'll come back and make a little announcement to close us out.
That's right. It's we've got a very important announcement that concerns Harrison Greenbaum, so don't skip off at the end of his show, because you are definitely going to want to hear what we have to say at the end of his presentation.
Yeah. Well, everyone, please welcome our friend Harrison Greenbaum.
I fell asleep for a moment there. That was very long. It's funny because Andi mentioned that 500,000 people in England had been vaccinated, and by the end of their spiel, the entire country has. So that's very exciting. You can hear and see the studio audience. Studio audience, make some noise so they can hear you out there. Thank you so much for being here. When I originally was asked to do this, I asked if there could be a virtual audience, because a roast without an audience is just complaining. So I appreciate you guys being here. What a diverse group of white people that they gathered for me. This is great. Welcome to my apartment, by the way. This is my apartment. I got a bedroom and a bathroom. People still get confused when they visit. They'd be like, hey, where's the bathroom? I'm like, let's play a game. Open a door, and if there's a bed, don't poop on it. I'm actually currently dating a girl from Nebraska, which is a fun sentence to say because different parts of it are surprising to each of you. What a journey you guys just went on, huh? You're like, dating what? A girl? No, Nebraska. Get the hell out of here. Too many plot twists for a single sentence. I love that the virtual audience is 2 summer Santas and at least 1 person in a seance. I don't know what time zone you're in, but it seems much darker in the second square. Well, let's get into it. Let's do this, everybody. This is the Magic Year in Review 2020. I've been giving it every year for about 2 years. So here we go. The Magic Year in Review 2020. Very, very excited to have the opportunity to talk about what's happened in this very insane year we've all had. And importantly, by the way, as a disclaimer, this is a roast. This is a roast. So if I talk about you in this roast, it's because I love and respect you most of the time. Some of you I don't, but most of you. You only roast the ones you love, and it's a roast. So lighten up, everybody. We got this great virtual audience here. This is fantastic. This is going to be a great time. And things have really changed so rapidly. Like this year, January 2020, we had no idea. I was in London with Andi and Josh at the session at the beginning of 2020. That's when Josh actually wore this outfit, which was remarkable. I'm not sure what he was going for. I'm assuming like Jedi or maybe like Paw the Bear. By the way, this was actually the year of the Tiger King. And I do think that Tiger King's first two husbands and Josh and Andi have a lot in common. Mostly because they're two straight men in a public gay relationship that should not be allowed near tigers or guns. There's going to be a lot of Venn diagrams in this thing. Right after London, I flew to Las Vegas to be part of the Society of American Magicians National Convention, which was closed out by this performance. It's they flew in, I believe, 10 or 20 Chinese performers straight from mainland China. They flew them in January. A decision that has not aged well.
Ouch.
And then in March, as we all know, the best thing ever happened. Can we agree? The best thing ever, right? I mean, honestly, I know it sounds like I'm being disingenuous here, but I am so grateful for the coronavirus because it did the one thing that I have been trying to do for years. It forced every bad magician to stop doing live shows. Granted, it also stopped every good magician from doing live shows, but let's focus on the positive here. Every bad magician was forced to cancel their shows, from awful children's shows all the way up to Chris Angel's Believe. They were all canceled indefinitely. And for that, I'll be forever thankful. Honestly, if you told me that all I would have to do to stop magicians from doing the bra trick ever again was start a pandemic, I'd be munching on bats like a Harley Quinn cosplayer drunk at a Comic-Con. By the way, bats have a lot to do with magicians.
Oh, no.
Batman is like magicians in that he uses gadgets to make up for actual magic powers. People suspect he's sleeping with his much younger assistants, and his biggest rival is a clown.
Absolutely.
Also, I brought up the bra trick, and there's an audience here of a ton of magicians. So while I have everybody gathered here, let's all agree right now that when the pandemic is over, nobody does the bra trick ever again. Can we just agree? No, not that way, not that way, and definitely not that way. It needs to stop. What do you think the audience thinks during the bra trick? Either you're stealing your own bra from a spectator, which is creepy, or you're stealing their bra, which is a literal crime. Those are the only outcomes of that trick, is creepy or a crime, and it needs to stop. Also, I've been giving this my lecture, You Are All Terrible, for years, and this is always the slide that I say. There would be more women in magic if you weren't also creepy, just in general, while I have you.
Yes.
Also, they're not female magicians. They're just magicians. You don't go to a doctor that happens to be female and say, wow, she's a great woman doctor. You just call her doctor. And the reason I bring it up, by the way, is because 2020 has finally gifted me with the perfect photo to accompany this PSA. It's this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you see? Can you look at this photo? There's a huge ass in it, and also this poor lady.
Don't do it.
Exactly. Was that the virtual audience, or was that my conscience talking? All right. By the way, Jabrizi is a lot like prison food, only enjoyed by bad people with no taste.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a roast. Also this year, so many things happened this year, even though most of us were inside. David Blaine actually went up in a bunch of balloons. I don't know if you guys know that. He went up in a bunch of balloons. I think this was his inspiration. In fact, a lot of his previous stunts are Pixar inspired. His next stunt actually will be scaring children.
Great though.
Yes, he uses Pixar a lot. I don't know if you guys remember this great stunt that he did. And who could forget this Pixar tribute? Oh, sorry. There we go. I think we all remember that movie.
On a Hot Wheels track.
Also, speaking of Disney, by the way, Disney released Magic Camp on Disney Plus. And as somebody who went to Magic Camp and loves Magic Camp, I can tell you that this movie is as realistic a portrayal of Magic Camp as Disney's Air Bud is a realistic portrayal of basketball. The only thing realistic about Magic Camp's depiction of the magic community is that it included at least one sexual predator.
Ooh.
That was a weird transition to go straight into that photo, but we're doing it, everybody. I hope everybody had a great holiday. This was me celebrating Christmas, and thanks to this pandemic, Lance Burden even commented on that photo. I call this the Lance Burden Master Tradition. And the reason I bring it up is that Lance Burden is moving from Las Vegas to Kentucky. And as a result, he is selling, this is his actual store. He is selling that shirt. He's selling scented candles. And I don't know, I don't think Vanishing Ink currently has them, but they should. It's the greatest magic product of 2020. And this is true. And I love Lance Burden. I truly, truly do. But thanks to 2020, that you can buy Billy Toppet signed for $20 or unsigned for $25. He charges you $5 not to sign it, which is the most 2020 way to do it. There's been a lot of great loss in the Magic community. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we lost Roy Horn. That was very sad. Marvin Roy died this year. Amazing Randy died this year. And a moment of silence for Jabrizi's career, which also died in the year 2020. I'll have everybody note, by the way, that I did the work to spell Jabrizi's name correctly. It's not an easy name to spell. He did not do the work to spell Escapades correctly. I wish that was fake, but that's very real. But now let's get to the meat of what happened in 2020. 2020 was the year every magician became the magic equivalent of a cam girl.
Ouch.
Converting mostly terrible magic shows to even more terrible Zoom shows. Right? Like, how does every magician have the ability to design and install a television studio in their basement, and yet none of them can come up with original material? Everyone has the same 3 tricks. By the way, this is my little Corona. Ta-da! Worked hard on that animation.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Magicians in 2020 are a lot like cam girls. They're actually the same. It's a complete overlap. If you want, though, we can compare them. Magicians are in 2020 are like cam girls, playing with specialized toys for an audience of mostly sad, lonely men. Still jokes. All right. By the way, I don't know if you've seen a Zoom mentalism show, but every Zoom mentalism show is like the National Museum of African American History and Culture, relies extensively on Black art. Have you guys noticed that everybody's doing some version of the BM Project? Have you guys seen this? The BM Project, which is, I understand that they're Israeli. I get it. So maybe they don't know that BM also stands for bowel movement. But it's led to one of my favorite things to do in 2020, which is to call it the BM Project. Like, hey, honey, hold my calls for 20 minutes. I'm about to commit to another BM project. It's also priced at $69, which is my favorite price. Also, while I'm on the subject, every magician, isn't it a little ironic that every virtual magician is using Black art, and yet only about half of all magicians support actual Black art? We need more diversity in this art form badly. Color separation is a very fun card trick, but a terrible booking policy. Speaking of diversity and inclusion, the Magic Castle was under fire this year. You know there's a problem with representation at a venue when the female performer with the most steady work at it is invisible and can't talk. And to be clear, I love the castle, which is a thing I'm saying because I hope they don't suddenly stop booking me. I appreciate the time. Also, I would prefer any of these Zoom shows to magicians who are still doing live shows with little to no precautions during a goddamn pandemic, right? Is it enough to be a bad magician? Now you have to be a bad person. What I'm saying is 2020 is the year we transition from hating masked magicians to hating unmasked magicians. I think we have to assume that these terrible magicians are doing live unmasked shows without safety precautions because it's the only way they know how to kill.
Wow.
I mean that one. Okay.
I
Here we go. Let's do another Venn diagram. Photos of you performing at an unsafe maskless party on Instagram. My girlfriend's response when I asked her to make a late night tape. Why would you want to record a record of you giving a disease to someone else? Learn how to read. Make these jokes better.
Ouch.
I just appreciate everybody in the comments. I see clapping and ha-has and some got-ems. This is great.
No.
Oh, we're getting here.
Oh boy. No.
Magicians have, and we should be honest, magicians have done a ton of amazing work, bringing a ton of joy during an insane time, performing thousands of virtual shows, at least half of them by Paul Draper alone. And the point really is that magic has continued to grow and evolve in spite of a worldwide pandemic and Jabrizi. We should all be using this too soon, too late. Use this time to create original magic that reflects who you are, knowing that whatever you create, no matter how rough it will be at first, it will still be better than any transparent and terrible attempts to get clicks at views like this. Seriously, it's videos like these that make COVID only the second worst way to go viral. All right, let's do some Venn diagrams, round this thing out, everybody. Here we go. Our final magic Venn diagrams. Clickbait videos by social media magicians is like COVID-19. Still getting spread around by idiots who at this point should know better.
Yes.
Magic competitions. Not dying in large numbers from the coronavirus. What do they have in common? South Koreans are just better at it. I wish that wasn't true, but it is. These are jokes. Republican governors.
Oh, no.
Jeff McBride's lawyer. What do they have in common? Spends a lot of time trying to reduce the number of people in masks. By the way, shameless plug, I do Who Books That every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're picking back up in 2021. We've had an incredible amount of people on it. This is my shameless plug. It was supposed to go earlier, but it's okay. Shameless plug. And by the way, things are looking up in 2021. They're looking up, right? We're all going to get a $600 stimulus check, or as virtual magicians call it, 30 shows. And people are getting the vaccine now. This is so incredible, right? After healthcare workers, the next people to get the vaccine are the old, the sickly, and the obese, which means most magicians are at the front of the line. So truly, who knows what 2021 will bring? I don't. All I know is that I can light my signed Lance Burton candle, which smells, and this is true, like scandal.
Oh.
I could just light this candle, let it fill my apartment, and hope for the best. A huge thanks to my studio audience. Give it up for yourselves. You guys were amazing. Thank you so much for joining, and a huge thanks to Josh and Andy for this opportunity. Let's bring you back. Let's make a big announcement, maybe? Question mark.
I watched pretty
amazing.
much all of that like this.
Like the Phantom of the Opera?
Yes. Yeah. Incredible.
Amazing.
So funny. Thank you.
Well, let's get straight to the announcement, which is I'm super excited about this. Folks, if you thought that was funny and you've seen Harrison work and you're impressed by his magic as we are, you're going to have a chance to learn it because he's writing a book.
That was a lot of ifs, Josh, but I have never really released a product to the magic community, and my lecture, You Are All Terrible, I've been doing that all over the world. I mean, mostly the US and one time in London, but the world. And I've spent a lot of this pandemic writing the book. It has a lot of firsts. It's the first magic book, I think. I think it breaks the record for most times using the word penis. Previous record was 0. It's going to have a centerfold that pulls out. I don't think that's ever been done. That's going to be very sexy. It's me.
Tell them about the cover.
The cover. I'm so excited about this because I got to tell you, Josh and Andy, they actually told me to put more jokes insulting Chris Angel in the book. They said, there's not enough. They said, can you put as many as possible?
I'll tell you what the first is. This will be the first book to get us sued. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen.
The real thing is Josh and Andy could not be two more supportive people. And I have a lot of crazy, insane ideas, and they have been unbelievable about trying to bring them to life. And one of the crazy ideas that I had was everybody has 8 Tarbell volumes. Everybody has it on their shelf behind them. I'm sure we can find it on Andy's right behind there. Everybody has the same 8 books. We're going to give you a dust jacket to make my book look like Tarbell Volume 9, so that when your friends visit, they're going to look at your shelf and realize that they're missing one. And it's just going to be fun for you to have.
I love it.
And you can just really rub it in. They're going to visit. They're going to look at the shelf and go, wait a second, there are 9? And it's up to you. You can be like, yeah, how did you not know that? So this is just one of the many crazy things that will be involved in the book. And I cannot thank Josh and Andy enough for letting me do all this crazy stuff with them.
And on a serious level, what I think is so inspiring about this is, you said that you wanted to write a comedy book on magic that was also funny. And it's true. You have accomplished this. It's a serious book with serious advice and great content that you can and should read. But what's so cool is he also delivers it in the way he just delivered this roast, where you're laughing on every page. And I think it's going to be an essential must-have book.
Thank you. Yeah, I really want people to just enjoy reading it. There's so many comedy books about comedy writing that feature no comedy writing. So this book, I hope it makes you laugh a ton as you learn how to make other people laugh.
But that's the important thing. It is hilarious, but you genuinely are learning whilst reading it. It's such a great book, and I'm going to be so happy when we get it released later in the year. And not
one, but 2 John Benet Ramsey jokes, never before done. Does it make sense to have them in the year 2021? Not at all, but they're there.
This is going to be a strange book to read back in 20 years' time, but still, that'll be fun. Thank you so much for doing this roast.
Thank you, Harrison.
Rounded out this event perfectly.
My pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.
And thanks to our live audience for joining us here as well. And finally, since we're doing thanks to everybody watching this and sharing it and commenting and joining in. Like I said earlier, the thing I've learned most about 2020 is that Vanishing needs to find some way to embrace the community more and more as we get older. And I'm so pleased that this is a start of that. So thank you, everybody.
And please read the letter, which is being emailed to you, and it's also on our blog. We hope you'll read it. We covered a lot more in the letter than we had time to in this chat. Again, happy holidays to you guys. Happy New Year, and thanks for all your support. It means the world to us. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.